All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for My Hero Academia, Season 4, Episode 2.
The true first episode of the season.
Yes. We got the most minor bit of details regarding the OP and ED in the first episode, as it was a recap episode. A serviceable and above average, I would say.
Yeah,
recap
better than
episode.
the other ones.
Yeah, definitely. But we have now the actual plot to get into here.
Yep.
We are going to be getting into not only what is going on with our boys and girls in UA, but also the villains and our new character in Overhaul, and who he is, what he wants, and all that jazz. And also possibly how this whole thing with him ties into this Oni girl.
Yeah.
She seems very important based on what they showed in the ED specifically.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a big deal. Also figuring out where not only Hero Society is going at this place, but All Might's place within this. Is he doing anything more than just kind of being a teacher and focusing on that? And then I guess the final thing is this new character, Sir Night Eye, who is apparently the sidekick of All Might. And it seemed like that was some pretty hard-lined exposition given in the first episode of hey, take note of this. This is important exposition. So how his character fits into everything now, especially since he's not the sidekick of All Might currently, and maybe what happened to cause that and then relationship to not work out.
And then there's the connection to Mirio, which, you know, I mean, he trained him, so...
Right. Yeah. It feels very Jedi apprentice kind of lineage thing, you know? Very, very interesting stuff there. So, y'all, episode 2. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, and then come back here for the discussion. Yeah, I'm going to echo that, Jacob. The villain stuff I am extremely interested in. Because, wait, okay, Yakuza, good. That's cool. Something that
makes sense if you have quirks in Quirk Society. What happens to the organized crime, right? All Might happens, but you'd still have people that would have quirks and things like that.
There'd be families that's entire purpose is to build up their own criminal empire and stuff.
And quirk marriages are a thing, so, you know, the idea of, essentially... harvesting / saving, you know, powerful quirks, that would absolutely be a thing.
So this guy is probably someone who has some really big ties to the Yakuza, but because of All Might's situation, he's just some low 2-bit leader of a smaller Yakuza group, and they had some name for them as the Shi Haisakai or something like that. And then he's basically okay, there's a power vacuum. I'm going to make the first move quickly. And try and establish the whole thing, and even be so bold as to go straight up to the League of Villains and go,
nice town, I'll take it.
Come join me. I've got a plan. I actually know where this is going. You don't have to follow this petulant child anymore.
Right, please put down your social security numbers and available work days, you know.
Yes, seriously. And I buy it.
I do too.
I buy it.
And I didn't think, I didn't think that this would be what Overhaul would try and do, because what we got with him at the end of season 3, that wasn't really an introduction. That was more
making opening statement,
right? It was making us aware that he exists, kind of a thing, right?
Exactly.
But this was his true proper introduction, and I did not think it was going to be something like this, and and not only did I not think it was going to be something like this, but if I did consider the idea that it was going to be something like this, I certainly wouldn't have thought that it actually would have worked.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But. Okay.
But there's some big things in here just in the villain stuff that needs to be given very close attention. One, Overhaul's quirk is... okay, it's alchemy. It's straight up... Did you see how everything went all grid-like and everything?
Oh, yeah.
That's straight up Edward Elric.
Right, or Scar. Or
reassembling and disassembling matter.
Yep.
So he has one of the most busted quirks.
Oh, yeah. Which
ever, and the amount of effort it took for him to just destroy someone.
In a lot of ways, the only
it's just touch. That's the only limitation.
Touch, but the thing is, but here's the thing. It's not just that it's terrifying in combat, right?
Yes.
And because he is, in this situation, he is Shigaraki, but better.
Yep.
Because one, his quirk is better, it has a better knack for destructive capabilities as far as what we've seen so far.
Yeah.
You know, of doing it quickly and things like that. But also it has utility purposes, which are where you really need to be scared whenever you get into the realm of superpowers.
Yep.
Especially if it's for villains.
Right.
Because
villains have time.
Villains have time, and they usually have plans, whereas heroes usually don't have either of those things. Right. Yeah. They're reactionary, so prep doesn't really mean much. Mm-hmm. For the sake of villains, if they're doing something from the shadows and they can just reassemble... What?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I'm guessing that it's basically you take the literal interpretation of the word overhaul, which is to diagnose, reassemble, fix, restructure, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if his thing is such that he can do that and it's this, it's straight up just Edward Elric alchemy, Full Metal Alchemist style.
It's the kind of thing that if there are not things introduced as far as like limitations for it, but it is, and we're actually right that it is basically alchemy, then what should be able to stop him?
He's the kind of person where you need basically the equivalent of this gun kind of thing to come in and just be like, hey, 500 yards away, Jacob, your style sniper, just
because
otherwise
now granted, we know that there are some limitations. He needs money, right? So he's not completely, like, he can't just do completely whatever he wants.
He needs materials.
Because otherwise he wouldn't have people working for him, I would think, even. He'd just sit back and make stuff.
Well, no, that's the thing. I don't think he's Momo. I think in some ways Momo is revealing actually why she's one of the strongest court users in the show, is because she can transmute, literally.
She is true perfect utility.
He's not necessarily transmuting, necessarily. He is just moving parts. So he is not necessarily changing the fundamental structure of things. Like, he might not be able to go that deep also. He might not be able to go that low.
Right. Because theoretically, if you could just move things, you could still rearrange atoms them so that they turn into different things. But assuming that you don't have that level of fine-tuned control, then, and then it makes sense why he was able to basically disrupt or disintegrate Magni, whatever, while at the same time also doing the things of gel nanoing people into the pavement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
it's probably based on time. It's probably based on his focus and his concentration. Yeah. So if he's in a lab, probably he might be able to do things at a deeper level. But I would assume that this was his, I'm potentially about to die, I'm summoning in my reinforcements, or they're watching this, which at least one of them was watching. That's why Compress got hit with the dart bullet thing, or what have you.
The anti-quirk bullet.
The anti-quirk thing, which is like, okay, can we talk about that? Because we were joking, or at least I was kind of joking about, this is going to go full X-Men. This is straight up an X-Men plot. If we have anything that takes away superpowers, like...
Well, and hell, like, why would you even need to worry about, like, One for All and All Might at that point? Now, I mean, there's limitations to that, granted, but still, it's... Yeah.
There might be also some conditions about what needs to be done in order to make it actually work. Because,
and it probably is quirk-based, which is why it's not going to be a true X-Men thing of just mass-produce them and whatnot.
It's not 100%
Unless maybe that's what they need money for.
I think it's actually...
Like, that could be it.
I think actually the money thing is very easy to determine as being materials, because you probably don't need the money to recruit people. You need a good message. Stain proved that. So they need basically the branding of the League of Villains, and then they need their goal to be made known to all the low.
They need a PR
villains.
campaign.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say a good way to start that would be with using this kind of weapon as an example, in that, we don't have to be worried about heroes because we'll use this against them. Now, what's crazy though is that these types of plots, at least in movies, usually end with something very Spider-Man-like, where there's a great tower ascending into the heavens, and then we plug the capsule into the thing, and then we release the pathogen all over the world.
And we use the Oni girl as the experiment because her quirk was what made us able to develop this thing, or whatever.
Basically. And then we end up with a situation where the whole place gets, infected or what have you. But the problem with that thing, though, is that then hits the villains as well. So
Right.
I am now actually a little bit in a kind of a mix-up here. Is Overhaul in kind of the I'm gonna get sick, this is all sick, where he's got an elite chosen few kind of mindset, which is very kind of Nazi, like super race kind of thing? Or is he doing this as a thing of like, we'll basically just rule the world. If you get rid of all our opponent's quirks, then you just don't have to deal with.
Yeah, and that could be what the gas masks are for. Like
the plague masks.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like that could be part of it. They could just be aesthetic.
I think they're aesthetic.
Or maybe they figured out also a cure for it, so they all inoculate themselves. And then there you go.
That's the next thing I'm going to bring up here. I actually should bring up the episode here real quick. There's a big thing that happens when Compress gets shot. When Compress gets shot, Overhaul freaks out and says, "Don't touch me!" And we see really quickly when Compress gets shot that bumps appear on his skin. Once Compress touches Overhaul, I'm pretty sure bumps appear on Overhaul's skin as well. Let me pull this up here.
That's a good question. I always thought that the bumps were just something that Overhaul was doing to himself to increase his defensive capabilities or something.
Okay, possibly.
But maybe not.
But let me go back to this spot here, because this was something that was like, okay, so yeah, you can see them on his arm there. You see those? And it's even on his face a little bit. So he says, "This guy's trouble." Shigaraki's like telling him to stop. He says, "Use my compress to seal him away." They show the bullet in the background, and it doesn't even really go that deep. It just kind of pings him, basically. So it looks more like a dart actually than a bullet. Like it's got some kind of release thing inside it. And then once that happens, he's like, "Wait, I can't use my quirk." So my question is, the bubble thing a part of Compress's quirk, like fizzling out, like trying to react with
or
him
it could
there.
be something of the bullet spreading almost potentially to him, or
like really quickly.
I don't know.
Okay, so yeah, Compress gets like his left arm just pulverized there. Shigaraki rushes in to try and hit Overhaul, and a bullet dart thing narrowly misses Shigaraki. And at that point, Overhaul freaks out because he's like, "Oh crap!"
Right.
Now, here's my thing here. If he got hit with it, that would mean that Overhaul right here can't use his quirk. That's why he's freaking out and leaping back.
Although he already took out what's his face's arm, so he still has his quirk.
Yeah, but that might have been
but he knows that Shigaraki still has his quirk. The bullet missed.
Right. And then someone jumps in the way and literally takes the hit for him. Dies instantly. Like,
yep.
That's a huge deal. Shigaraki has never actually been shown to use his quirk against anyone to the point of killing them. He gets really close when Toga and Dabi have their whole thing there. And then we have basically, I'm guessing these are just kind of more Yakuza with
quirks,
with quirks, but they've all got the plague mask thing, so that's kind of, it feels like it could be a functional thing, but
it's probably just an aesthetic.
It looks like a branding thing,
right?
Know our faces, remember
gang
us.
Colors, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Dang, just the fact that like Magna exploded.
Like I always did kind of laugh at Magni and the lizard guy. Like
Spinner.
Like when they were introduced, it's like, okay, all right, how long are these guys going to be around?
Right. Like we took Toga and Dabi a lot more seriously,
right,
than those two for sure. But even Twice has like way more. Character stuff going on, and it's kind of crazy that they somehow managed to fit a Magni gets sudden, backstory, which means horrible, tragic death.
I wanted to say that during the thing, but I
wanted to as well. But I was like, wait a minute, why are we getting backstory for Magni? That's that's kind of okay. It's a little bit of a surprise. Boof, just exploded.
Because the thing is, this might be the first time.
Oh my gosh.
That,
They even did the white sensor kind of
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
before
Well, 'cause-
like actually showing the blood.
Well, because what
everywhere
I'm
and
trying to
stuff.
think of is, have we ever seen someone in MH8 actually die? We
Um,
know that there have been people that died, like Coda's parents, right? But have we
Yeah.
ever actually seen someone get killed?
I don't
think
so.
we have.
I think we just have heard of people dying.
Right. I think this is the first time, because even in the case of, like, say,
Dobby
with
roasts the people in the alley that one time. We kind of saw
yes,
it. We
yes.
saw it. Then.
right.
That's, I think, the only time.
Yeah. Right, but certainly not any named characters.
True.
Even though Magni being like an important character is kind of a joke. But since what we got there of the backstory was the first time we ever really saw anything, as far as like,
Shown
Right.
versus told.
Yeah,
which is what
exactly.
Tiger
Of
did.
what's this person like? But even with One for All and
Jeez.
what was the hero that One for All took out? Oh yeah, Best Jeanist. Like got
Yeah.
a freaking hole in his chest.
You mean
know.
All for One though? Oh,
Yeah, All for One. Yeah, All for One blew a hole in his chest.
We thought Best Genius was dead.
Like, because he should be dead, right? But no. He's okay.
Yeah.
Here though, it's like
Head, torso, arms.
yeah, just all of that.
gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
So,
Jeez.
mhm.
And I still want to bring this up as that I think it's interesting though that where Overhaul scratches Magni is on the elbow, like it's this very small
Right.
bit there, and yet
The whole upper body.
the whole upper body goes, which means I think that even if it wasn't that Overhaul's quirk was like taken away from that
Maybe
point
it was
there,
weakened, and that's why it
was-
only got the arm.
right, it was something that was not strong enough
Mm-hmm.
to where
Yeah.
it took the quirk away, but
That-
it was second hand to the point where touching the arm just blew off the arm.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, because otherwise that does that, and I hope that that's what it is, because then there's an actual reasoning for it, rather than, well, we only wanted to kill off one of the League of Villains,
right. And maybe that's why it's kind of a thing of where like, oh, I wanted to make a statement, but actually we traded, we traded corpses here pretty much evenly because my partner up there missed his shot.
Right.
So we're going to have to talk about that because I nearly died
Uh-huh.
because, you screwed up. Which I also like as a really cool thing because it doesn't feel like these are traveling the speed of bullets. These little dart
Mhm.
release bullets here. They're being fired one from a
Could be like air
Pee-wee-
rifle stuff.
I mean,
yeah.
but they're also being fired from a Pee-wee 6 shooter here.
Yeah, a little.
Little dinky thing.
Yep.
Like, and depending on the range, like obviously
uh-huh.
it should be fired at the speed of a
Well,
bullet.
right.
But
Well, exactly.
but
It's
still.
again an example of how you can't have actual snipers because it's just too unfair.
Well,
right?
I mean, also sniping requires a lot of military training and some
yes,
serious
yes.
skills.
Well, but
required
even
into
just
it.
like using a hunting rifle to do sniping, because then it's
right. But also just people missing in general is pretty realistic, and in a
yes,
lot of
definitely.
cases, like people will be like, they always hit their target. And it's
right.
like,
Well, right. It's the whole thing of the knife, versus a holstered sidearm within 27 feet or whatever. Advantage goes to the knife wielder.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Good point.
And they also showcase that Shigaraki is actually quite fast. Like even though his he has a quirk that doesn't like directly say like, oh yes, he should be physically whatever.
Right. He's a young guy and he's athletic, so that's
right.
something.
Uh-huh.
To bring
And
up.
since his quirk is based around just getting close enough to touch people, that would be how he would train. Because it's not like he would really train his quirk to like destroy bigger things. I mean, maybe if he wanted to take out a building or something, but
sure.
it'd just be make sure that you can touch them.
Yeah, really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So we have everyone getting ready for hero work studies,
Right.
which, okay, we get
Mhm.
the kids working with individual agencies. That's cool.
Yep.
Bakugo and Todoroki are doing makeup work
Right.
because they failed
They failed the
the
Fortnite
provisional
arc.
license test, which I like it because as far as character combinations go, they actually don't spend time together. There was that part when they walked through the dark forest where they're doing the
for
scare bit there.
Test, whatever.
Yeah, but that's basically it. And I mean, they took out Moonfish with the help of they helped distract Moonfish with the
right
with Tokuyami's Dark Shadow coming in to really do the crushing. But that could be a cool just character combination here.
So
Sir Night-Eye. This new character. So All Might has it feels like some shame regarding how he handled things with Night-Eye.
And I think like they could go for something different, but I don't think they'd go for something too different. In that it's probably that he was like, hey, you need to be strategic with how you use One for All, since you know you're deteriorating and stuff. Don't do the measly work, basically,
right.
you know.
But this is the other thing I wanted to bring up. The idea that Mirio has been working with this guy for a year. Now, if we think about how long Deku has been the holder of, you know, One for All, it's less than a year. No, it's less than a year. It's considerably less than a year. It's maybe half a year.
No, because he had the 8-month or 10-month training period or whatever that was.
Right, but he wasn't the wielder of One for All during that time period.
Yes, that's true.
So you can't count that.
Yeah. My point he was working with All Might, but he didn't have it yet.
Which means that what I would assume is that if All Might would talk to anyone about his plans for a successor or anything, I would think his sidekick at the very least probably knew something about that.
Definitely.
Not even necessarily like all the details, but just enough to know that he's looking for one. But the coincidence that someone who was going to be the potential replacement also worked with your sidekick around the time that he chose Deku, like that's some converging coincidences.
I mean, maybe they didn't say it, but once they brought up the whole idea that originally All Might was going to pick Mirio, I guess at that point it's like, okay, yeah, so he was training specifically with Night-Eye, and maybe he doesn't know it.
Right, maybe he doesn't know it. Maybe Night-Eye was like, I've got big plans for you. I've got kind of, a bright future planned for you if you'll work with me.
And
so he's being super strict to be like, grooming him to be ready.
Exactly. And then the falling out between All Might and Night-Eye is when All Might's like, hey, so I already chose a successor and gave them One for All. And he's like, wait, what? And literally
and Night-Eye's like, I've practically groomed.
I've been grooming this guy. Like, his quirk synergy is like, unless you had someone who's permanently invisible, there's nothing better that you could possibly have.
Yeah, this guy is unstoppable.
Then,
And he's also a good boy. Like, this is probably the thing that I'm so glad they're not doing here. Mirio is awkward. So he feels like he might have been at some point the socially outcast kid who decided to work out and then became the popular boy.
Swole Tintin. Yeah.
Swole Tintin. Seriously, yes, he reminds me of Tintin too. It's the eyes. It's got to be the eyes.
And the hair being sort of
But there's nothing about him that screams like any kind of like double two-faced kind of like behind the scenes anything.
Although if they did want to bring in some interesting conflict, if Mirio finds out that basically he was training to be the next One for All holder and it went to Deku, that would be interesting. Now
that
he's
sounds
a
like
really
a good thing
boy.
to have in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And he's a really good boy, so I think he would handle it pretty well, all things considered. But still, that would be a pretty hard thing to deal with.
Yeah. I also sense a little bit of something where Mirio wasn't saying everything maybe he was thinking at this part here when Deku kind of has his inner monologue talking about his goals and stuff, and he says, I want to become the greatest hero, which is, it's Bakugo's thing, but it's, it's also the story. This is MHA, the story of how Deku becomes the greatest hero. And Mirio has this kind of like serious look of like, oh, so that's a crazy goal. And the room is like kind of dark and shaded.
Oh,
almost as if he's like,
I had that goal too. Apparently it was crazy because Yep.
I'm sensing a little bit of parallel here that when they show the two of them shadowed here and then All Might transitioning into his flashback here, All Might's in between the two of them.
Sure.
Kind of having this look of knowing of like, oh.
Right, and that could just be basic, cinematography kind of stuff of how they set up the scene. But
the fact that All Might's just straight up telling us, we don't even have to guess. It's like, no, if I hadn't met him, Mirio would have been.
Yep.
That's crazy to think. Like, All Might was that pressured probably in his own mind because of his wound and because of probably his just knowing there's a limited amount of time that he needs to find a successor quickly. But then we get towards the end of the episode and things are a little bit wonky.
It's just sort of like, okay, okay, what it seems to be is we can't focus on all the characters, so we're going to set up that they're all doing these other things so that if we wanted to do a montage of them at all their little things, we could, but if not, we could just come back to them later, and it's like, oh yeah,
cool.
This thing was great, you know.
Right, so, but it's mainly a Deku-focused episode. We know that Todoroki and Bakugo are going to do their thing.
We know that the other guys are going to be studying with, you know, Momo and... Yeah.
But then we get this kind of this build up towards the introduction to Sir Night-Eye, and they're talking about how much he values humor, which it's like, okay, sure. And there's kind of this feeling of it being kind of a gimmick, but I want it to be more about his characterization and how it's like, no, this is maybe what he sees as being the energy that All Might carries, being something that bolsters society.
Right.
But then we get this really awkward kind of just like almost anime, just
bondage fan service.
Yeah, just kind of almost like played as a joke of like, okay, sure.
Right, but the thing is, it's
so absurd.
It's so absurd and it's so arbitrary is the thing. Because if we were to have some insight into exactly why he thinks that, you know, laughing is important or something like that,
which we might get in the next episode,
right? And
still,
if / when they do, we kind of have an idea of how it will probably go, you know, and why it would be relevant.
Right.
But it's so contrary to what has been built up for his character, and then we see this here, and it's like, okay, I mean, you know, and it was, and the thing is that even in the case of like her delivery of the reading
lines.
off of the lines, you know, what I don't get it. Like, okay, yeah, you know, saying like, you know, you need to smile more, kind of a thing. But
right
now, okay.
Then they go from that into Deku being like, I've got my one move that I've been training since childhood.
Yep.
And
that was incredible. Like. I'm still not too much of a fan of the scene as a whole.
Yeah.
You know? But the fact that basically we got an in-universe just excuse, I guess, for Deku to do his All Might impression again.
Yeah, which is something we literally saw in Season 2 at Episode 20 when he's like, couldn't, you know? And he's like, no, not that. And then, of course, he's like this... How dare you?
Right.
How dare you ridicule?
And here's the thing. I'm almost positive that the very first thing of the next episode in this scene is going to be him laughing, right?
Yeah.
Now, we don't get to see that because, okay, yeah, it's like, you know, sort of throwing out a cliffhanger, you know, even though we know what's going to happen. So it's not really much of a cliffhanger, but they're not really debating us because we know what's going to happen, you know? But that's like, okay, that shot of Deku is like straight up. So what's the meme? What's the meme of like,
yeah. Like someone meme that with Deku just rocking back and forth with his All Might thing. Hey. I said, hey. What's going on?
Oh man. Yeah.
I try so hard, but I can't deny. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So that was the second episode. We've got villains in the background doing things, and we've got a potential kind of X-Men quirkless society plan with something or other.
I gotta say though, I'm really glad that Overhaul brought up the whole idea of like, cool, League of Villains, great.
How you gonna do that?
How many of you are there?
Yeah.
Like 10? Didn't you've lost like 3 big potential pieces? So it doesn't really sound like a league. What's your organizational chart for, you know, for like, you know, future developments and things like that?
Where's the hierarchy system?
Yeah, exactly.
Because whatever it is, trash it, just put me near the top, and we'll just disseminate everything else from there.
This doesn't seem very duplicatable. Like, are you training these people to be leaders themselves, or is this just like a squad, you know? Because really, if you want to have big infrastructure, you need to be able to delegate properly. And,
right.
You know,
exactly.
and I don't think Toga is really cut out for, you know... for middle management. You know,
I got driven over here by someone with multiple personalities, and like, I'm not sure either of them is suitable to be a proper villain. He just seems like a really depressed guy who needs some like mental health counseling. Like, right, buddy? He's like, yeah, I really do. It's like, yeah, see, like, yeah, he doesn't feel treated well or respected here. So I'm pretty sure, Shigaraki, you either need to shape up, get up, or get out.
And it was great because it's one serious in that these are things that they would need to have in order to do stuff like this. But then there's also the juxtaposition of the fact that you're bringing up this thing that's like such minute, inane kind of details that aren't cool and stuff, as you're doing this super cool power play
of like just walking into their lair and like saying, what up?
And it just
throwing it all on the table and being
it was just so funny because
what are you gonna do about it?
Because it felt like his version of throwing it on the table was basically like, here are my memos, you know,
here are my credentials.
Yeah.
Do you have a plan?
I have an LLC formed, you know, with like, you know, blah, 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 and all that stuff in order to make sure that we are fully, properly organized. And
yeah, but for some reason, all these bigwigs I know that are willing to donate to invest in our cause don't like my branding opportunities. So they, what are those people called? The capital...
venture capitalists?
Venture capitalists, yeah. He's like, I've got venture capitalists on this thing, but they said I need better branding. So I'm going to go and steal your brand, and you can just sit down and be a good dog, okay?
Right. It makes me think of the part in Parks and Recreation where Tom Haverford is wanting to start a business, and Ben Wyatt's like, oh, I got it. You need to get into the sales of laundry cleaning products. It's great. You're going to make so much money. And Tom's just like, no,
that's not sexy.
That's not sexy. That's boring. You know, that's nerdy. You know, and he's like, no. There's so much money in this. It's great. And that's basically I feel like what Overhaul's doing here. He's like,
Overhaul's got practical, pragmatic, step-by-step flow chart, spreadsheet plans.
It's the same kind of thing as the part of me that wanted to see All for One with like an organizational notebook of like his different quirks and like
that's the thing. He's the ultimate emperor of evil. He's disseminated that out to hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Apparently he ruled the underworld, y'all. So you think him being in prison is like any kind of a detriment to it? Well, I mean, not even that. Like, guys, this is a classic superhero move. The bad guy is the mob boss, right?
Right.
Then he goes to prison and becomes stronger than he's ever been before because then he takes over the prison.
Him. Yeah.
And you give him unlimited time to prep safely.
Yep.
It's so crazy how they're like, don't forget, All for One's not out yet.
Right.
Tartarus? What, do they actually have a Cerberus three-headed dog like super guy quirk to block him?
You basically just locked him up in a Mordenkainen's magnificent mansion. Yep. It's like awesome, wonderful. What happened to the whole thing of All Might Hit Squad where we go and paste his face, you know, because this guy can't be allowed to live. Yeah. But
that's not happening anymore.
Nope. But yeah.
So,
anyways,
League of Villains.
The little things, I loved it so much.
League of Villains are going to get probably a facelift, a little bit of an upgrade. I would like to see Shigaraki pull a kind of, I'm going to hang out on the sidelines and learn.
Yeah, that'd be great. Some humility, yeah.
Well, but also kind of do the All for One thing and potentially like lose, where he kind of goes, okay,
yeah,
all right, and he can even channel a little bit of his petty, you know, childish kind of, you know, ego stuff into it, where he can go, okay, just turn your back on me for a few seconds, Overhaul.
Right, that's all I need.
Just give me a few seconds of where you don't take me seriously. I will exploit that to the utmost. And that's a great villain to watch, because then you have him in that mode of, I'll play, you know, number 3 or number 4 in your organization or what have you. I've got my people. They know who their loyalties lie with.
Yeah.
And that would be kind of
most
cool.
of the time. Twice.
Most of the time.
It changes. But,
sure. But that could even be a cool thing of where Shigaraki has to kind of check with them every once in a while. Like, hey, we're still a team, right?
Right.
And they could be the team within the bigger kind of thing that's like trying to figure their whole thing out.
Right.
Oh, I love it.
Because Shigaraki would not want to be just some punk with, you know, a cool quirk.
Yeah, hence this would be a good opportunity to showcase where he's grown. Like, what are the things that he's kind of gone past in terms of his problems.
So and give him opportunities to grow even more.
Yeah. But, great introduction to our new villain. he's got a team too.
He does.
Which means we get another opportunity to have a better Phantom Troop wannabe squad. Because I'm just saying, the League of Villains, when they showed up in the beginning of season 3, and they were all like, yeah, we got almost all 10 of us here. I'm like, oh, they're trying to do a whole little, like, little
and there were some of them where it's like, okay, these guys are actually terrifying.
Yeah, you three.
Yeah.
And
but then some of them where it's like,
right. Yeah. Spinner. God,
Spinner.
Yeah. And then
Mm.
Compress just expositing away like the entire plot.
Although his quirk was pretty great and how they used it
cool.
and stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, that means we're going to get more quirks to learn. We're going to get some cool stuff with regards to what their plan is. And yeah, it's awesome stuff. So y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on full-length access there because we are watching these week to week with you guys there. But if you do any level support on our Patreon, you can get access to our Discord where you can chat with us and the community about these stories, these anime or what have you. You can chat with me in the anime spoilers only stuff.
Right.
I'll be there as the episodes, after we record them and stuff. You can chat with the community in the manga stuff there, or just hang out and talk about whatever. Like Jacob's book that he wrote is really awesome.
Yes, absolutely, because I'm sure you haven't heard of this before. My sci-fi novel Battle Lines, What Are You Doing If You Haven't Gotten It Already? The link to Amazon where you can buy it is in the description below. There's some reviews on there so you can see what it's like. And if you do get it, make sure to leave a review of your own.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.